Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the weekly roundtable. I'm sorry about the delay. We still trying to get used to the change in schedule that we had. As you remember, we used to go on Friday night at 9 p.m., but we try to make it a little bit more user friendly by coming to you guys on a more appropriate night and time. Unfortunately, to accommodate you, we've disaccommodated ourselves. So I just managed to get back into the studio on my way home. We're still waiting for a couple of the guys to show up. One's in transit, one's walking the dog, and one is MIA. Our friend Jan is out this week and next. She won't be joining us for a couple of weeks. She has a couple of things she has to take care of. So, in the interim, you have to deal with me. Yep, that's right, just me, little old me. So, until the rest of the guys get here, uh, just going to give you a couple of thoughts. As you guys know, a couple of weeks ago, Michael and I went into Georgia to the IV 8888 weekend shoot, and we had a fantastic time. I don't know if you guys have gone to the YouTube channel at the Range Report L1F and checked out some of the video we got. We came across some fantastic people, some amazing products. We had a blast shooting stuff. We had cameras everywhere, not only ours, but I mean, there were hundreds of content creators there that got so much video. So if you get a chance, go to IV8888's website, YouTube page. That's Iraq Veteran 8888. Subscribe to his channel. Not like he needs another subscriber, but go to his channel, check out some of the video that's been posted. We've all been cross posting and collaborating with his channel so that we could share our content to him. Check him out on Twitter, check him out on Facebook. Uh, Eric is a fantastic asset to the Second Amendment community. He does fantastic work. He is. I'm going to be blatantly honest with you. Since having the YouTube channel and being involved as deeply in the Second Amendment community as I have, I can tell you honestly that a lot of the personalities that you see on a lot of these YouTube channels, when you are in proximity to these people, a lot of them are not who you think they are. They they're producing content for entertainment and not necessarily information. A lot of people come across, they tell you one thing, they believe something else. Us, us on our channel, we always try to give you the straight skinny from the layman's point of view. You know, we don't try to portray ourselves as anything we're not. We're not telling you we're the world's greatest marksmen. We're not telling you the world's greatest, competitors. We don't know everything there is to know about guns. We're always learning, and we're honest about it. And everything that we talk about on our channel is from the point of view of our personal experience. Eric has done the same thing, and he always has. His channel is based on being straight up and honest with the viewer and giving you his assessment of a particular firearm or accessory. And he does a fantastic job at doing that. So if you guys want to follow a really good channel, it's Iraq Veteran 8888. Check him out. We'll see about putting the link in the comment section below so you guys are easier to find it. Check out the Range Report L1F2. Also check out the Firearm Guy channel. Fantastic channel. Dan Abrams is one of our closest confidants and friends. I'm on the phone with him constantly seeking advice and his input on different guns and accessories, and whether we review them or not. Now you got to remember, a lot of the really big channels, manufacturers send them a lot of products, and when you're getting something for free, a lot of these gun manufacturers are kind of, you know, hint, hint, wink, wink, nod, nod, make sure you give it a good review because we're trying to sell these things. A lot of YouTubers, that's exactly what they do. They get a firearm, they get paid to do the review. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting paid to do the review because people, think you're just taking a gun out and shooting it. Well, there is a lot of expenditure that comes out with doing an adequate review, and most of the reviews that we do on the channel are after several hundred rounds have gone through the gun. Now we always do a preliminary review and out of the box show you what it is and everything. Hey Jan's in the comment section, so we're saying hi to her. Hope you're feeling good, hon. like I said, we always try to do a preliminary review to give you the out of the box interpretation of the gun, how it feels, how it looks, how it's made. Uh, and we give you the first shot analysis, how how it performs out of the box. But we always try to go back and do follow up reviews. And after those reviews are done, we've got a lot of money invested in not only our personal time, but range expenses, ammunition, targets. And on our channel, I buy all the guns. And if there's on the rare occasion we get a gun that we're reviewing that was submitted to us, we tell you that it's submitted to us. We also do the review and we tell the people, listen, you're not paying for the review. You're not reimbursing us for our ammo, our time, our costs. So we are going to review this firearm and be dead honest about it. If it's a piece of crap, in my opinion, we're going to tell you, because when it comes down to it, everything that we review is going to be looked at by the consumer as something that they may potentially buy. And if you're buying a firearm, you're buying it for a fairly limited number of reasons, but the most important reason is to defend yourself and your family. So everything that we review, if it has a failure point, if it has malfunctions, if it has issues, we're not going to sugarcoat it and try to hide it because a manufacturer may have sent it to us. We're going to tell you. And we're going to be just as honest with a submitted gun as we are with one of the hundreds that we buy. Because if you're taking my advice on something, my responsibility is not to the industry. My responsibility is not to the manufacturer. My responsibility is to you, the consumer. You may be called upon at some point to use the firearm that we reviewed, that you purchased based on our recommendation or our say so. We want to know that every time you need to use that firearm, it's going to work and it's going to work correctly. And we want to make sure that, if I give a passing grade to something that should fail, I might not ever know that somebody's life was impacted, if positively or negatively, by the use of that firearm. I might not never know about it. But because there's that question that I'm not going to know, the best thing I can do for the viewer and for the consumer is be honest. Because I would want to put my head on the pillow at night and know that I was honest about something. Because if you trust me with my opinion, you're trusting your life and the lives of your family and your loved ones, your friends, your coworkers, your community. And I want to make sure that we're always steadfast with our interpretation of the firearm and letting you know. And if I have problems with it, doesn't mean you're going to have problems with it, but at least you know that we had problems. If I had no problems, at least you know that too. And we're always honest with you. If we got a gun submitted or we buy it, we tell you. There's a lot of guys out there that don't. And if you don't necessarily know where that gun is coming from, or if somebody's getting paid for that review, I'm not going to say people are being dishonest, but you have to take it with a grain of salt because you're the one who is going to be the end user. And I feel comfortable knowing that, you have something that you can put your full faith and confidence in. Now, for 20 plus years, I was a general contractor in New York. And I always had what was called the last man in philosophy. I don't care how many other people were in on a job before I got there. If I was the last man in on that job and I do finish the job and I complete it and I'm kind of accepting responsibility for everything that went on there before that, because as a contractor, I'm always looking for the mistakes and the problems and the things that can be dangerous, the things that need to be improved upon. If I see a problem and I don't correct it, and it's somebody else's work, and then a year, 2 years down the line, something happens with a mistake that somebody else made that I saw, I'm going to be responsible for that. Or at least I'm going to feel. I might not be legally responsible for it, but ethically, morally, I'm going to be responsible for it. So I always use that philosophy. If I'm the last person that has my hands on something before I hand it to somebody else, I want to make sure that everything is right with that. And a lot of that, like I said, it's a personal thing for us. That's how we do it. A lot of people don't hold themselves up to that standard because what they produce is entertainment, not information. You can glean a certain amount of information from the entertainment, but you have to take it, for what it's worth. If somebody's doing something for clicks or they're doing something for your benefit, which person is looking out for you? So, with that, there are a few names in the Second Amendment content community space that uh you can take, and these are people that we always say, yeah, this is somebody who's being honest. If this person says something, you can take it as gospel because I trust them. And I don't necessarily expect anybody to trust me based on my word, but these are people that I trust. And I hold myself to a higher standard than most. So if I trust them, it means I'm holding them to the same standard that I hold myself to. So, like I said, if I say, hey, you can trust the firearm guy, you can trust Eric over at Iraq Veteran 8888, you can trust 704 Tactical, you can trust Hickok 45. Hickok gets guns, but they don't. He turns around and they're loners, and people say, oh well, Hickok, he's a FUD. Maybe so, maybe so, but the guy knows his stuff. Uh, but there, like I said, there are a lot of people. If somebody's trying to sell you guns and they're doing reviews, okay, uh, take a step back and appreciate where the information is coming from. Uh, like I said, Jan got herself a Taurus G3 compact last summer, and uh, she hasn't really had a whole lot of time to do a lot of practicing, but we're going to try and get her out to the range soon so that she can become proficient with it. It's a good gun. I've fired the gun. I don't own one because it's a little too small for me. I try to buy guns that are going to fit me, so that I can review, but I also understand that a lot of times there's guns that we buy for the channel that I have no intention of ever carrying, no intention of ever using as a range toy, but they're guns that have become sort of iconic in the field, and people want to get another opinion on it. So having me shooting a gun and demonstrating it for you, and it might not be a gun that I want, at least you're getting a naysayer's point of view. I'm going to give you my objective opinion on the gun, but I'm still going to be honest as to whether or not it's a useful or dependable, affordable. Well, affordable is also, contextual. Everybody's got their own range. But like I said, I got tons of stuff that I have. I can't stand them. They don't feel good for me. I don't like the ergonomics. I don't like the way they operate. There's a lot of things I don't like, but I still have them because people asked and they said, hey, could you review this? Could you review that? So we go and we do it. And who knows, maybe one day I'll find a use for these firearms or the proper hands to place them in. But until then, they sit in the boxes up in the case or in the safe or wherever. But like I said, that's going on. But like I said, if you guys get the opportunity, go over to our website. It's our YouTube channel. It's the Range Report L1F Liberty First Foundation. We'd appreciate if you guys would go over and hit subscribe. Like a couple of videos, and please, if you can, drop some comments on there. The interactions really do help us with the algorithm and pushing our numbers up. It's a very small channel, and we've never ever tried to publicize it or put money into it because, again, I'm not paying for fake likes. I'm not paying for fake clicks. Everything we get, we try to earn. And the same philosophy applies to our content. If you like our content, we hope that you would give us the good graces, of giving us a like, share, and a subscribe. Thumbs up, that kind of thing. Lets us know at least we're on the right track. Because there are a lot of critics out there, a lot of critics. I cannot tell you that the number of comments that we get on the website every time I go and I crap on somebody's firearm, the number of fanboys that's out there is ridiculous. It's like I just went into their childhood home and slapped their grandmother. That's the vitriol that we get back. And it's, hey, this gun is not that great. And you get people, my gun is the best gun that ever went. Yeah, well, you spent $1,000 for a gun that doesn't perform very well, and you're too prideful to say otherwise because you can't return it. And once you buy it, you're stuck with it. And if you want to sell it, you can only get 40% of its value for it. So maybe that's where some of that comes from. All right, so I'm getting a message in on the side here on our other page to let us know. Oh, okay. It seems that one of the reasons why Vass is not with us just yet is he's waiting to finish up the Brett Baer interview with Kamala, whatever, Harris, and see what that is. I haven't watched it. I heard a couple of snippets already, and I don't know. I when we get down to doing like news analysis and political analysis, I look at the sound bites of the week. I look at the polling. I look at the most important thing, which is the policies. I look at that, and that's what I base my commentaries on. Vass looks at everything from the political standpoint as far as gamesmanship go. I look at everything more from the, what does it mean to Joe Blow, perspective. So that's why Vass and I clash a little bit every now and then. Is we're looking at the same thing but from two different angles, and he's giving me one perspective, I'm giving him mine. Marshall sits in the middle, like he says, I'm just waiting to see if it's constitutional. That's what he's looking for. But the guys will be here soon enough. I wish I could demonstrate a couple of the things that we brought back from Georgia. But unfortunately, every time I bring up anything on the channel that's firearm related in a physical sense, they instantly cut our feed. And we figured out the reason why. I mean, I have a rifle over here in the corner that's one of our giveaway rifles, and we tried to demonstrate it last year for you guys. And as soon as the rifle came up into frame, they killed the feed instantly. Not only did they kill the feed with 3 minutes left on the show, they deleted the 2 hours and 57 minutes leading up to that 3 minutes. That's how serious they are. And we figured out that the reason why they were doing that is because there have been a lot of instances on social media systems where somebody has done something dangerous or suicidal on these pages, and because there is no FCC mandated delay in the airing, what you're seeing live is said live. The only delay is what it takes to actually bring you the signal. There's not a built-in delay. So there have been a lot of instances where somebody had done some self-harm or hurt somebody else, did something really bad, and it was too late for them to cut the feed, and there were thousands of people watching. So I think what they do now is anytime that there's even the, the mention of a firearm, somebody in the algorithm says, hey, what's happening here? And they want to make sure that nobody's doing something stupid. So unfortunately, while I can play you, I can do a split screen and I can bring another video in and show you something that way. If something should happen while we're speaking and say, oh, by the way, I got this new thing, let me show you. Unfortunately, I can't. So, I have to prepare, Michael and Vass, and everybody has to prepare for the unlikely event that something happens. We have to plan for the unplanned contingencies in order to have a piece of video, ready for you guys to watch. So, that's why we don't do we share screen. We do our research about the subject matter we're going to speak of this week. But if it comes up on the fly, we either got to be really good with our memories. But this stuff, we're out of luck with that. I can't do it. However, I can tell you this. If you happen to own a firearm and would like to get yourself a nice leather holster or rig, shoulder holster, or even a really nice belt, this is not sponsored, by the way, so don't think I'm shilling. I just happened to get my hands on one of these, and it is magnificent. This is the holster rig that I got for my Gold Cup Trophy Colt 1911 with 1-inch compensator. And this is made by Vandal Holsters, Vandal Leatherworks. It's Vandal. This is the most magnificent piece of leather outside of a really pair of expensive shoes that I have. This is a phenomenal holster. Give these guys a look. When you see the quality of the materials that they use, and then you look at what the price they get for what they're sending you, you can't touch them. These guys are just ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous quality, amazing stuff. So check them out. That's Vandal Holsters. And he said, not only did I get I also got a twin magazine carrier, and this is a reinforced gun belt, and this is made out of some of the finest American leather you'll ever have. Fantastic, all handmade. Even the stitching, same number of stitches on one side as it is on the other. That's craftsmanship. And speaking of craftsmanship, a man who's cut out of his own cloth, Michael Vasquez, Dragon of the Southern Tier, now Dragon of the 5 Boroughs. Mr. Vass, how are you this evening?
I'm I'm running late. My dog has no appreciation of the 7 o'clock time, but that's all right. I was also at the same time listening to coverage of Brett Baer interviewing Kamala Harris, and oh my God, she just imploded.
Really?
Yeah. At one point in talking about the economics, one of the questions by Brett Baer to Kamala Harris was, if Donald Trump's economic policies are so bad, then why do the majority of Americans support Donald Trump and trust Donald Trump more than you on economics? And she essentially responded in saying the American people were stupid. She said, well, I've got 16 Nobel laureates. She repeated the lie about Goldman Sachs, which the CEO of Goldman Sachs has come out and refuted her and said, no, the study, which was an independent study, not Goldman Sachs, in full did not say that Donald Trump's policies were bad. In fact, they said that they're better than hers up until 30 years, which we know no economic policy will be in place for 30 years. But if you were to take it 30 years out, then her policy becomes slightly better than Donald Trump. But if you're talking about in 4 years, no, his policy is better. And that's what the CEO of Goldman Sachs said in response to her. So she promoted that lie and trying to respond and saying that, well, the public doesn't understand how great her policies are. When asked, well, you've been in office for 3.5 years and people don't see the Biden policies working, the Biden-Harris policies working. And she had no response. So in effect, what we saw, and I will be doing a detailed review of this, but it amazed me. She, in her response to Brett Baer, she repeated her 3 talking points, that she's going to have opportunity economy, that a small business, it's going to be more housing, and the child tax credit without mentioning it by name. She mentioned those 3 policies, Orange Man bad, and that's it. He again asked her, what's different about you being, if you were to win the presidency, Kamala Harris, what would be different than Joe Biden or Trump? And she had no answer. It was an abomination. And I know that people on the left will look at that and say, oh, well, it's just right wing. No, she cannot answer an honest interview where she is being fact checked and where she is being pressed to answer the question itself.
Well, the most important thing that I want to know is, how is her neighbor's lawn?
Well, he didn't ask.
Oh, really? You didn't ask about the neighbor's lawn? Because that seems the thing that she always talks about as being something relatable to the American.
He
that
didn't ask any questions that would allow her to do that.
yeah, her upper middle class home that she lived in with her parents, one parent is a physician, the other one is a college professor. It's a middle class home in Canada that she grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
So she uses that experience as a way to be able to explain to inner city folk how she understands their plight, because they had a nice lawn.
Well,
Speaking of inner city folk,
yeah.
okay, I parsed this on my own personal Facebook page, but I want to get your interpretation as a white guy, okay? And I walk into a room full of black guys, and I go, you know what? You all look alike. What's the likelihood of me getting out of that room without getting my ass kicked?
Hi.
You know, it wouldn't.
Well, it depends on how you say it, because if you're saying it like a joke, you're being a smart. If you're not being a smart ass to denigrate, no one cares.
But I mean, if I'm dead ass serious, and I'm saying you all look alike, you should all think alike, you are all stereotypical.
So you're denigrating.
And I'm blanket statementing an entire, group of people, an entire demographic based on a fluctuating amount of melanin.
Mm-hmm.
I would be chased out of every social media platform that there was as, this racist bigot and all the rest of this. I would be destroyed. But how is it that Barry Obama can sit there and say at the DNC that we're not going to scold anybody anymore, but go to a group of young black men and tell them they all need to vote for Kamala Harris because she looks like them?
Here's the thing. Everybody who has mentioned that the black community is not monolithic, that we're not all one voice, has been derided and or put in jail. They've destroyed them. They destroy their careers over and over again. Because as much as you hear Democrats say, well, no, black people aren't a monolith, they treat us like a monolith. They have expectations on how they're going to treat every black person. You have to be the same. You have to vote for Kamala Harris. Why? Well, she's a black woman, meaning an African-American woman, but she's not. She's not African-American. She is black. That means she goes back to Africa. She is a woman because presumably, I'm not a biologist, but according to her, she says she is. So I take her at her word. But, when we listen to them, listen to how they denigrate. They look down on black people in general. She was on with Charlemagne the God, and people were talking about, well, she's not black and she's being insulting. There's a reason why black men aren't voting for her, and that's because they're looking at the economics. Again, that's going back to this interview she just had with Fox News and Brett Baer, where she had no answers other than Orange Man Bad, her 3 talking points. That's it. And she was the one who was antagonistic in that interview. She started the interview interrupting and attacking Brett Baer, who is known as one of the best hard news anchors in the industry. He doesn't he does hard news, and he's interviewed people like Obama and others. He's hard news. And she was attacking him from the jump to avoid having to answer the questions. She didn't answer questions with Charlemagne the God. They had to re-edit her answers in 60 minutes. She's had blatant bias in favor of her in every news media. And when people say, I can't vote for that because I can see the bias on NBC, CBS, ABC, 60 Minutes, on Charlemagne the God. When I'm seeing all this bias, and when you get a question as simple as on Stephen Colbert, which was, what will be different under a Harris administration, and she can't answer the question, And then I'm the bad guy because I'm black, and so I'm supposed to vote black no matter what. But don't worry, you're black. You're an individual as long as you do what you've been told. That's the insanity of it these days. And people on the left just refuse to acknowledge that. It's not my opinion because I'm a conservative Republican. It's my opinion because I'm a black guy looking at the black community, looking at the way they talk to me and say, you have to do this. You have to because you don't have a choice. You don't have agency. You're black. This is what you do.
I mean,
It's very insulting.
I mean, being honest, there is a good percentage of ethnic communities that will not vote for their own best interests, but they will put racial policy ahead of anything else. They will put race above anything else. I've seen it with my own eyes. Why are you voting for Kamala Harris? Because she's black. That's the reason.
That's because they have been convinced, and this is the same thing that was done with Obama in 2008 and 2012, was, well, he's black or she's black, therefore she relates. I've had this conversation with many people. Well, they should automatically relate to my life. I'm like, no. She's upper middle. She was raised upper middle class. She was raised in Canada. Her background goes more closely to India than it does to America. She has nothing to relate to. She knows nothing about being in the Bronx or Chicago or Oakland. She has no connection to any of that. She has no understanding. That's never been a circle she's been in. But they do that because they've been told, well, to be black, you have to support other black people because they relate to you automatically. Well, that's like saying I relate to somebody from Zimbabwe or I relate to somebody from Angola because they're dark skinned too. They're black. No, they're African. I'm American. Not the same.
You couldn't find Zimbabwe on a map if it wasn't listed.
Actually, I can.
I mean, well, maybe you can because you're more worldly. But I would say if you just look at the globe with no country distinction lines in it, it's okay. Pick out Goma Zaire.
Let's be honest.
Around here somewhere.
Let's be honest. Most Americans, if you can have all the lines in every single one of the states, and people can't figure out which state is theirs on an map of America. So that's the truth about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So when you're looking at the other half of the globe, the likelihood is even less that anyone's going to find it. But but you see, it's just there is, like I said, there is a good percentage of the minority communities that will only vote for the ethnicity that they're familiar with or with the D that they've been told to. And if the D is also along the sides of the ethnicity they've been, they identify with, it's a double whammy. Because I mean, you look at somebody like Alan West.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Alan West is as African American as you're going to get. He is as black as you're going to be. He's not of mixed race. He's not of mixed descent. His family's, black all the way back, but he's conservative and he's Republican. And he was running against the whitest white guy who ever whited. But you have a D next to that name, and you would think, okay, well, so there is something else than just the ethnic bond. It's also the D. And today I'm seeing a lot more people, especially after suffering through 3 3/4 years of this abysmal, totally lackluster administration. You're seeing a lot more minorities coming out and voting finally for economic policies that are going to benefit them now.
Okay, but I have to disagree with you to an extent, Frank, in that it's not the D. It's that Alan West and Dr. Oh, God. I'm sorry. I'm a little flustered because, again, I came in, I'm jumping right in without a pause. Any black man who's not a Democrat, and in particular not a progressive Democrat, they're not black. Joe Biden said it to Charlemagne the God to his face, and everyone got to see it and no one questioned it. If you don't vote Democrat, you're not black.
But me or Donald Trump, then you ain't black.
That's it. Ben Carson. Thank you. Yes, I was thinking Dr. Ben Carson.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's like if you can put a black politician, a conservative black politician, into a race, is it because they don't carry, that they've been somehow stripped of their black identity, or is it because the black identity is only overpowered against a black conservative if it's the D that they have to vote for? Which is the component that they're focusing on? Because I'm trying to figure out what has a stronger hold on the minority communities. Is it the economic policies that the Democrats keep trying to push on them? Is it the promise of constantly trying to give them policies that they think they're going to benefit them, like the New Deal and all the rest of that crap? Or is it because they've been told that this person isn't black enough? So I'm just trying, as somebody who is not in that arena, who's not in that shoes, I'm trying to just develop a better understanding, because we have so many phenomenal black Americans that can be running and taking office and bringing positive messages, bringing positive role models and examples, and doing good for that community, but they're never given the opportunity to do so.
The opportunity exists. They won't take it because nobody wants it, because it's a pain in the ass, because you have to sell out. You're expected to be a Democrat. If you're not a Democrat, then the community is told and has been trained to look at you as the devil itself. You're a race traitor. They say that all the time. You're skin folk, not kinfolk. Matter of fact, that's something that was quoted when I was running for Broome County legislator. I had the local wing of BLM and Antifa that were running around the black community telling everyone, no, Mike, he's skin folk, not kinfolk, which means I didn't obey them. I wasn't a progressive. So because I wasn't progressive, I wasn't black by definition. So very few black conservatives want to run for anything, because this is what you have to deal with. And that's on top of all the other pressures and difficulties in an election. Who wants that kind of oppression?
All right. So instead of looking at this as like three different categories that, you have, these are basically force multipliers. It's like, what one reinforces the other, and they build that tight circle and they retain control over communities. And we got to break that. That cycle has to break. And I think we're starting to see that with this election cycle, because I've seen a lot of, especially young black men, coming out and saying the last 3.5 years have been hard, and you're telling us you're going to just basically repeat the same stuff that you've been doing. This is not a new direction. We are hurting. Where's the money? The economy is in shambles. Where are the jobs? Where is this? And now Kamala comes out with this new thing. Was yesterday she comes out with $20,000 forgivable loan guarantees for black businesses.
Yeah.
She wants to increase screening for black men for black diseases. Now, Trump uses the term black jobs, and it's one thing, but she comes out and it's black diseases, and that's fine. Colorectal cancer only kills black men. That's apparently what they're gonna figure on these days. But it's like she came out with an 8-point initiative all aimed at black men or young or black entrepreneurs. There's a couple of them that are also for black women. But every single one of them, if a white candidate came out and introduced legislation like this to appease one particular minority group, do we have it? Imagine if you forget about a white guy. Think about it. Think about an Asian candidate.
Well, it doesn't
candidate coming out and saying he's going to offer $20 or $20,000 forgivable loans.
But here's the thing, Frank. You're not seeing the caveat to that, the important addendum to that point. She's going to be covered by the news media, who almost all of them the bigger the company, the more likely you've been hired by a college, one of the higher colleges, that have indoctrinated them into believing in white guilt, in some form of critical race theory, in some form of oppression politics. And so if someone is coming out with that, they consider that a good thing. She's fine. She's okay. She will be covered. They will edit and they will reinterpret that. And if you dare to say, well, it's racist because look at the bias that you're imposing here, well, then, no. Well, you must be the racist because what she said, that's anti-racism. This is the logic that is out there. And we have seen this in this campaign consistently. And the reason why she's trying to beg for black men to vote for her, why she's trying to literally buy them off. She's trying to bribe black men because 56% of black men do not want to vote for her. And she can't win an election as a Democrat without at least 70% of the black vote. And she's not getting it. Well, because they're saying no.
And even in her plan, I think the two things in there that smacked me as being, forget about racist, but just insulting. We're going to legalize pot because we know you brothers like smoking it. That's pretty much what it says. And then she's going to, do something to help reverse convictions.
She wants to. Well, this is part.
Sent so many black guys to jail because they had possession.
Yeah, but it's part of her. This is really funny because she's noted for, and her claim to fame, the thing that got her into the Senate, was the fact that as DA and Attorney General, she was throwing black men en masse into jails and keeping them in jails even after they served their terms, which is something the black community remembers and a lot of black men remember her doing. And so this flip-flop isn't working because they don't believe her, because what she did to get power was throw them in jail. And now she's trying to throw them a bone because she wants more power. It's like, no, screw you. You screwed us the first time. And I mean, specifically, mind you, I have no problem with enforcing drug laws, but she enforced the drug laws and then kept innocent men in jail and kept people beyond their sentences because it was good for the state of California in terms of having
the
prison
majority
workers.
of them were black men.
Yes. So
yeah, well, she exemplified a disproportionate, enforcing of the laws. It was very disproportionate.
Yeah,
but
and
you come out and you're saying, all right, not only are we going to offer a 10-point policy program, it's going to be exclusionary,
which would be illegal. It's unconstitutional.
Of the population.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's extremely unconstitutional, extremely illegal.
Yeah, the 65% of the population. You're not eligible for this. You're going to pay for it.
Yeah, but the thought, see, she doesn't care that it's unconstitutional. She doesn't care that it would never pass Congress. These aren't important things.
And then she's trying to claim, okay, what I have up on the screen is the release of her initiative. It says Vice President Harris will deliver for black men. She will provide the tools to black men to build wealth, support their families, and lead to their communities.
Yeah, that's a problem already. That's already in just this in just a subheading there that is unconstitutional because it is discrimination based on race.
Now, well, it is exactly.
Yeah, most people think of discrimination as taking
it's
away
actually
from
in violation of multiple civil rights laws.
Well,
not only nationally, but at all the state levels.
Right, but most people think of discrimination as I'm taking something away from you. No, it's also giving something to someone purely for the basis of their color of skin or some other characteristic, and that's just the same thing. That's still discriminatory. That's still racism. It's just in the opposite way of, instead of denying, it's just being exclusionary, and so it won't pass. She doesn't care, because she wants the votes. This is just to get past the election. It's not about whether or not this could actually happen. It's about give me the votes. And then especially because she doesn't have to worry about actually following through. She goes, she puts it in. It's going to get sued. It's going to be, it'll get dropped by the Supreme Court. She'll say, it's not my fault. I was going to do it. And then they sued me because it's unconstitutional. She'll leave out that part. But she'll say, I was trying to do it. And it's those evil Republicans, those evil conservatives that are paying attention to the Constitution. And they sued and stopped me from giving it to you. They're evil. I'm great. She's got her built-in excuse for why she will never do this.
It's insulting.
It's evil. This is evil, the level of politics that she's putting forth. And we've been seeing it since the day she came in. By the way, she also, in mentioning the economics, she also said when Brett Baer asked her, gee, well, for the last 3.5 years, you have been in charge. You've had the reins of power along with Joe Biden, and it hasn't worked. And her answer was, she goes, well, I'm not Joe Biden. I'm going to change everything. By the way, she won't tell you how she's going to change it. She has no answer for any new ideas she has. But she says, in addition to that, she said that she has to change the last decade of what America has been going through. So she threw Joe Biden under a bus because he's been around. He's been the one in charge for the last 3.5 years. She threw Trump under a bus. Okay, we expected that. She also put the last 3 years of Obama under a bus. She threw them all under a bus, saying the last decade.
Basically, Obama's entire last term, Trump's entire term, and Biden.
Yeah, she threw them all under a bus, saying that she has to correct all of them because she has the best plans, but she has no details for her plan. When he asked her directly, she couldn't mention a single item. She could only say Orange Man bad. And she relied on that. I'd say 70% of all the answers she gave were Orange Man bad. Not anything positive about her, not her vision, not her policies, besides the 3 that she always quotes. She had her 3 talking points, Orange Man bad. That's it. No vision for the future, no benefit. And this is just purely begging. This is bribing black men, trying to bribe black men, knowing she will never have to pay up. It's insulting.
And there's all kinds of falsehoods throughout her statements here. As I'm reading through this, okay, this is the first time I've really read through it. Okay, she spends 3 paragraphs basically promoting all kinds of falsehoods against Trump and his contempt for black men.
Well,
it's been shown over and over and over throughout Trump's career, even before he's a politician, how he has gone out of his way to help black men and black families.
Well, it's because, and again, we finally got to see the what happens when you fact check Kamala Harris. She loses her mind. She breaks down. When you point out, well, that's not correct, that's not true, here's the fact. And she literally, this was her scolding both Brett Baer and the American people. She will scold people for daring to disagree with her, for daring to point out the errors of what she has said. And if you notice, up until this Fox News interview, no one has really pushed back on her. No one has corrected her when she said something that is factually and knowingly incorrect. They've allowed her to continue, and she relies on the fact that that the media is going to cover for her, and they will never correct her because they're trying to fortify the election. And the moment she has to face someone who says, well, that's factually incorrect, her answer was, "How dare you question and speak back to me?" That was what she did. Again, this was eye-opening to see how she moved forward. And it makes it very clear why Democrats in 2019, uniformly, 95% of all Democrats abandoned her. She went bankrupt in her attempt to run for the presidency. She lost all of her support. Democrats ran from her. She didn't even make it to the first primary because she's so unappealing. And I can understand why they were in April this year, 2024, Democrats were talking about trying to replace her as vice president because she's unappealing and very difficult to work with, why her staff kept quitting on her. And it was only because Joe Biden is a part-time zombie president that she's gotten this opportunity. By the way, another thing that Brett Baer asked her, first time.
Well, I want to slow you down for just a second, Mike, because you're going over things, and I've got a bunch of things that I want to bring up. Okay, because you're just railroading on through this.
Sorry, I got a lot of adrenaline going. Go ahead.
I get that, and I understand where your passion comes from and so forth. But let's go back
trying to make
to
up
the
for the 15 I had a host alone.
Part of this new initiative of Harris's. Okay, what I have up here is from USA.gov, and it talks about the definition of discrimination. Okay, now this is in the context of work, and that's primarily at the federal level. Most discrimination laws are geared towards work, but in their definition, discrimination happens when, and I'm going to substitute the word employer here, or actually I'm going to take that out. Discrimination happens when a person is treated unfairly because of their race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, or genetic information. Okay. Well, wouldn't this specialized treatment for Black men be classified as unfair treatment based upon race and gender?
Of course.
Okay. Now, New York law is a little more on this because it goes a little broader. Okay. New York City human rights law protects people from discrimination based on many of the same factors as New York State human rights law, plus additional factors such as height, weight, and immigration and citizen status. New York law prevents discrimination in employment, housing, education, credit, and public accommodations. It protects people from discrimination based upon race, age, race, creed, color, national origin, sexual orientation, military status, sex, marital status, and disability. Law also protects people from retaliation from opposing discriminatory practices, filing a complaint, or testifying. Okay. Based on that human rights law, this initiative of Harris's is the epitome of discrimination. It is unequal treatment based upon race. It's also unequal treatment based upon sex.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's no way to get around it. Okay.
No, it's very straightforward. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Like I said, there is no way around it. There's no way to say that this is not discrimination. Okay. The fact that she is specifically gearing this towards a particular race means that she is treating that race in an unfair way. And that is the epitome of discrimination.
Absolutely. And again, she's doing it because she knows she doesn't have to pay out. This is bribery. She knows it because it's discriminatory, and it is
But
obvious.
she also knows that every one of those bullet point items on her initiative will never get passed, and she can use it as ammunition to try to say how much Republicans are against black men.
Of course, she never has to pay off because it's unconstitutional. And the moment anyone points out it's unconstitutional, well, you're a racist. Yep. Her answer is, well, you're a racist. You're an ist. You're a phobe. Therefore, you're the bad guy, not her for breaking or attempting to break the laws of the United States.
And I actually think that a lot of black men are going to see right through this. Okay,
they are.
That's
have
why the intelligence.
They are
right through this.
They are. That's why she is losing. She's at about 56% of black men are voting for her, and that's not enough for her to win the election. So that's why they do see it. But the other thing I was going to bring up is something else that I think is very critical in understanding the Harris election. Here we are with 19 days to go. She was asked for the first time. She was finally asked, and all the friendly media was so biased, they never asked this one question, which I have said very publicly over and over again. I've said it on this program. No one has asked her about Joe Biden. She was asked for the first time that, okay, you've been in the White House 3.5 years. You have weekly meetings with Joe Biden. She just said that she was in the Situation Room as Iran was firing 180 ballistic missiles at Israel, that she says she's going to support Israel. Unclear how, but she says she wants to support them. Okay. And she was in the Situation Room. That was her supporting Israel. She was in the Situation Room. She was right there watching the whole thing happen. Okay. I don't understand how that's beneficial, but fine. So the question is, but Joe Biden, for 3.5 years, you've said he's sharp as a tack. He's perfectly fine. We know for a fact he's a part-time zombie president. We know for a fact he works from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. 5 days a week. We don't know when that started. You do, Kamala Harris. What's your answer about that? She said, "Oh, Joe Biden's a great man, and why are you trying to denigrate him?" That was her answer. Joe Biden's great. Let's move on.
Hey, I've got a question.
Yeah, good.
About election integrity, okay? And what kind of brought this up is on Axios, the number 3 headline is Jimmy Carter votes for Kamala Harris weeks after turning 100.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got quite a few days between now and the election.
19.
What happens if Jimmy Carter dies within that
That's
time?
the question I always ask.
Depends on the state. It depends on the state. Some states will still count the vote. Some states
shouldn't be counted. He's dead.
Well, yeah, but every state has different laws. And because of the laws of each state, it would depend on that. But one of the biggest factors in that is, does anyone know he's dead? If no
here's
one,
the other thing, right?
You have to audit the vote and say, no, he's dead. That vote shouldn't count. And then they go to the state statutes that say, well, our state says you voted, so it counts or not. But that's the bigger thing. You have to look for it. And what did we see after the 2020 election and even in 2022? States refused to do audits. They refuse to do official audits of their elections. So even if I know that Jimmy Carter's dead, and I know that Georgia is a state that says if he's dead, his vote doesn't count, they won't do the audit to remove his vote. So that's really insane. And most people don't know that. It's insane. It's insane that that's our standard. And that's why the question about most recently in Oregon, they found that there were over 300 illegal aliens that were registered to vote. At least 2 of them that they're aware of at this moment did vote. They expect and are continuing. They now have started to look for how many more. They know there's more than 300. They don't know how many, but they know it's more than 300, and they know that it's more than 2 of them that have voted. They just found this 2 weeks ago. They just found out that they were on voting rolls. And the same error, because they were giving them IDs, and the same error that gave them the IDs already automatically registered them to vote. And they did. How many thousands, potentially, possibly tens of thousands of illegal aliens also are registered to vote? No one knows because they don't do an audit. So illegal aliens are voting in our elections.
So,
wonder why.
Here is some more information on that. Okay. And this is from the National Council of State Legislatures. Okay. And question asked here is, when an eligible voter casts an absentee or mail-in ballot, then dies before the election, does the ballot still count? 10 states, Arkansas, Florida, Hawaii, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Montana, North Dakota, Tennessee, and Virginia, have state statutes that explicitly permit the counting of those votes. Connecticut only counts those ballots if the deceased voter was a member of the armed services. 9 states explicitly prohibit counting absentee votes cast by voters who died before Election Day. Missouri states that such ballots be rejected only if sufficient evidence is shown to an election authority that the voter has died before the opening of the polls on Election Day, and the deceased voter's ballot is still sealed in the ballot envelope. Colorado, Kansas, New York, absentee ballots can be challenged on the grounds the voter died before the day of the election. After investigation, if the evidence shows the voter has died, the challenge is sustained, and the ballot will be rejected. Kentucky and Mississippi prohibit counting deceased voters' ballots, but through attorneys' general opinions rather than statute. In 26 remaining states, there are no citations indicating whether absentee or mail-in ballots from voters who died before Election Day are to be counted.
But
so 26 states don't say anything one way or another. That's over half our states.
This is why this early voting is bullshit.
Well, yeah. And if you notice, in every one, you have to know. You have to make them aware. There isn't an audit automatically. And they have to then investigate and or audit and determine.
And you have to challenge
each and every one. It just tells you how, and that's how inefficient the system is on purpose.
Okay. I think there should be an automatic balance, because the state's got the death records.
Well, here you have all this stuff that Mike just read. If this wasn't a problem, there wouldn't need to be anybody there to address it. If something never happens, you don't ever have to address it. Obviously, this is something that has happened that people have been concerned about, and it's enough where people have drawn up legislation, voted and passed it into law, or the secretaries of state have, issued some sort of guidelines to it or something like that. So obviously this happens. Well, you know how you don't have this happen? Voting on Election Day.
There are some instances. Very few, but there are some instances where I see why there is a need for mail-in and absentee voting.
Yeah, on military personnel overseas.
Military personnel. Other is government personnel stationed overseas.
And they can do that.
Okay. Other than that, there are very few instances where absentee voting is necessary.
Our overseas employees, I'm sure that there's some sort of medium that they can use, whether electronic or telephonic, to be able to facilitate the casting of a vote on that particular day. I'm sure that there's a way that they could probably make exceptions for people where they could have somebody vote in proxy. So here's the envelope with my vote in it.
That opens up a whole new can of worms.
let me finish. I give my wife an envelope, sealed envelope with my vote in it, and it's dated the date that I signed it. And when she goes down to vote herself on election day, hands it to the representative. This is the sealed envelope by my husband. It's in the package. This was his vote. It's a sealed envelope. If they want to make that something where you're not filling out the papers for that person, or if you want to have something where it's, okay, I'm going to be overseas. Here's my vote. I'm going to get it notarized, and then it'll be counted on that day. It'll be submitted that day. Other than that, nobody gets to vote early unless they're in the military.
Well, there's the thing. The military, the way they do it overseas, we have a process where it isn't notarized, but it is sealed, it is protected, and you can do that. Right. We can do that for most overseas. But here's the problem.
Then there's the other question of this. What happens you let people early vote and the candidate drops dead? Or some scandal breaks loose. Your vote has already been recorded 2 months before the scandal breaks loose, and you don't have an opportunity to change your vote now.
Okay, well, there's two things to that. If the candidate dies, which has happened, then the committee, because if you run for an election, and I have several times. So when you run for an election, you have a committee. That committee, and they have different names for it, but there's a committee behind you. So that if you die, that committee will replace you. They will find someone else, and they will put that individual in instead of you because you're dead or incapable of being. If I get arrested and convicted before election day, whatever the reason, other than me withdrawing, if I get elected and for whatever reason I can't take office, that committee, which is very often the leadership of that local, if it's county level, it would be the county party leaders, or it would be the state party leaders, depending on the election. And they'll pick someone else in your place. That's how they do that if the person dies. Now, in most states. Now, if I change my vote. So I was going to, someone was going to vote for Kamala. They saw the Brett Baer interview. They saw that she insulted the American people, calling them stupid because she doesn't have an economic policy. And you say, well, I made an early vote, but I want to change it. Okay. In many states, you would go in and vote in person. Your in-person vote overrides your mail-in vote. But, and here's the catch again, they have to know and audit and pull your vote from the mail-in ballots to nullify it. So if they don't get the notification, it counts twice.
The reason why you did the mail-in vote or the early vote in person is because you weren't going to be able to be there on that day.
I understand that.
Vote in person. That's why they need to eliminate the mail-in ballots, voting early, and only have it open to the American people that are serving our country overseas who cannot physically get to a voting station.
I understand what you're saying.
And then all of that needs to be done securely, telephonically, electronically, through a secure service that can't be tampered with, so that their votes can be recorded accurately. Now, most of the time, there's enough vote going one way or another in any particular district where 10 votes one way, 10 votes another isn't going to make a bit of difference. So if the results came in, if those votes came in a week late, it wouldn't have made a difference anyway. But now we see that votes are getting, things are getting changed by one vote. Things need to be counted that day only.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but you asked me what is the process, so I want to make sure people know what are the process.
But again, we're talking. All right, say I got a president and a vice president. They're running for office. Say it's Joe and Kamala, right? And I love Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the cat's pajamas. I fundraise for this guy. I run a telephone bank for it, this, that, and everything else. But you know what? That Kamala Harris locked up my brother, and there was no way in God's green earth I'm ever going to vote for that woman. No way. I would rather die and burn in hell than vote for her. But I have no choice over who Joe picked as running me. Now, I go and I cast my early vote because I have to. I'm not going to be around. I cast my early vote because I can't make it to the polls on that day because I'm going to be serving or I'm going to be this, that, whatever else. And then Joey pulls out or drops dead. Now the person I would least likely vote for on the face of the earth, you're going to tell me someone's going to take the authority to take my vote and say, I'm going to put it to the person that this person despises with every fiber of their being.
Yep. And it counts.
Bullshit. That's why we got to eliminate this early voting. It's got to be eliminated. The founders never. We had people 200 years ago taking a friggin' buggy ride with a donkey, taking them 6 weeks to get over a mountainous terrain so they could show up at their voting poll station and cast their friggin' vote. We can't get a millennial to get in their car and go over there and friggin' vote.
Well, the argument, Uber. Yeah. Well, the argument that is being made by the left almost entirely is that there's a lot of voter apathy. Since the 1950s, we have seen a steady decline in the number of people who are voting. Voter apathy, it's often called, is rising and has been rising since the 1950s, where we were roughly at about 70% of people voting in presidential elections. Today, we're at about 58%. It's significantly lower. And when we're talking about off elections, it can drop down to as low as, for non-presidential elections, it can drop as low as 26% in some states and some elections. And they're saying, well, the reason why people aren't voting is because it's not easy to vote. Now, there is no correlation. There's no corroboration that says that people aren't voting because it's not easy. Just like they say, well, black people aren't registering to vote. That's a lie. Black people vote within a percentage or two of white registering to vote. That's not the problem. The problem isn't registration. It's not ID. It's lack of desire. People don't want to vote for these candidates more and more. So their assumption is, well, if we make it easier to vote, they're going to go out and vote ahead of time. No, we're not really seeing that. The same people are voting that would vote in person are voting early or through mail. And we're not seeing increases in the number of people voting. We're seeing the same numbers. It's just that they're doing it a different process. And the same number of people aren't voting because they have the same apathy. It's not a matter of ease. It's a question of candidate.
You made it convenient for likely voters,
yes,
to vote, but you haven't made any effect on the disenfranchised voters. And all that you've done by making it easier is make the system weaker and easy to violate and cheat.
That is one of the side effects. Yeah, across the world, mail-in ballots are considered the most corrupt.
This is not how this was supposed to work.
No,
and for the party that screams about democracy constantly, even though we're not a democracy, for the party that screams about a democracy, you would think that the one thing that would be outstanding more than anything else is a single-day secure vote. That is, if you want to talk about democracy, that is the backbone of democracy, a single-day secure vote, not this bastardized crap system that they're running now. But they benefit from it because this is a baby of their birthing. They want to raise it the way they want to, and it's. I'm sorry, this has got to stop.
I don't disagree with you. I myself don't believe in, because there are October surprises, because excuse me, people will do research or they'll see an ad. More likely they're going to see an ad, but some people will do research. They'll look at some of the old interviews. They see interviews like are happening right now. They'll see a debate and they'll suddenly go, you know what? That's no longer I don't want that candidate. I didn't know that. And how often have we seen them saying, oh, I disagree. It's kind of like, as an example, we've seen in this election more than pretty much any election. We've seen that what we were told in the past is not true. As an example, the economic numbers, the number of people who are employed. We just got recently, we were just told that 818,000 supposed jobs that were created by the Biden-Harris administration don't exist. That an entire year of jobs disappeared. Like throughout the entire year, they've been adding numbers that aren't real, and they had to correct those numbers. Well, here's something else that people don't know. And it just came out in September. People are just finding out about it now. Remember how Joe Biden, Kamala Harris have been boasting that they brought down crime, the number 2 or 3 issue in almost every single poll of voters in 2024. The question is crime. There's too much crime. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were like, no, we handled that. In 2022, we brought down crime. And then in 23, we brought down crime another 3%. And we had a reduction of crime in 2022 of 2%, 2.2, and then another 3% in 2023. Well, here's the thing. The FBI in September came out and revised their numbers for 2022, the entire year. And in fact, there was a 6.6% correction in the number of, and the amount of crime. In fact, crime didn't go down in 2022. It went up. Mm-hmm. It was actually an increase in overall violent crime, 4.5%. 4.5% increase in crime and violent crime. And in fact, so the reduction in crime in 2023 was 1.6%, half of what we were told before. So they lied, and they've been lying, and they're continuing to lie because the mainstream media isn't talking about it, and people are only just starting to find out because the FBI released the notes quietly. They didn't have a press conference. They didn't send out a notice to the news media. They just made an addendum that they have recently pointed to. And if you aren't reading the addendums, you didn't know. This is why only now, this week, people are just starting to find out. John R. Lott actually found a lot of the data. John R. Lott, who's actually very well known for his research, he's part of Real Clear Investigations, and he was the one who found that this update happened, and the public have not been told. So, in fact, you were lied to. Now, people are going to find out, some of them from shows like this. Some are going to see it from John R. Lott directly, or some of the non-mainstream media will be addressing this over the next couple of days. And people are going to be aware, and they are going to say, oh, I want to change my vote. And then what? Oh, but you can't, or it's very hard. It's very interesting. Hi, Sharon, by the way. Thank you for being here with us, by the way, guys. Sharon says she gives us a cheer. We thank you for being here with us. So, I mean,
hello, Sharon.
That's the problem. That's the problem with early voting. Okay, this is information that has now been verified. It is correct. They lied about crime is more of a problem and has been more of a problem. They lied to your face. And now what? And now what? Oh, you want to change your vote? Yeah, no. But you early voted. And it's almost impossible not to.
Now, every time that there's a set of numbers that government agencies are involved in trying to assess and count, that they always seem to get it wrong.
Because there's a corruption in the system built in.
How many trillions of dollars are missing yet?
Depends on the day. Yeah. It depends on the day. But I mean, you have problems like what we saw with the hurricane. We've spent $387 million on building and rebuilding Lebanon. To date, we've spent about $170 million on helping people in North Carolina. And we were told by Secretary Mayorkas directly, the Secretary of Homeland Security, that we will not have enough money to take care of all of the hurricane research. And the thing about that is that's the executive branch, which means to fix this problem, all it takes is one phone call from Joe Biden, one sentence in a memo from Joe Biden. All he has to say is take half the money from the illegal aliens, spend it on hurricane relief. We will have the money to get through November 30th. Instead of doing that, they're going to Congress to print more money to cover this, which is going to be part of the next year's budget, even more money, which means poor people get more poor. And it's a harder way to get this done because it's political. It can be resolved in 5 minutes. And most people don't know that.
Did anybody see the Axios article about tensions between Biden and Harris?
They're throwing each other under a bus.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but that's not new.
Well, did you see who threw Harris under the bus today?
Today? No.
Tim Walz.
What?
Tim Walz threw Harris and Biden under the bus. He came out today, and I quote, "American people know that we can't do another 4 more years of this." He came out at a fundraiser at a Tim Walz rally because Tim Walz is out there trying to energize the black vote. Because who else better? Yeah. Who else better than Tim Walz to go out and energize the black vote? Is out there telling people Americans know they can't do another 4 years like they've just had. And did you see who threw Kamala under the bus yesterday? Did you see that one? The big dog. The big dog. The big dog, Billy Boy Clinton. Big old Bubba himself.
Oh, he was talking about what was that?
Laken Riley.
Yes,
and
yes.
He said that the illegal immigrant that killed Laken Riley, had he been properly vetted by immigration when he came across the border last year, he, by all accounts and most probabilities, would still be alive today.
Yep,
and then he went on to ramble about, well, Americans aren't reproducing at a fast enough rate. That's why we need illegals to come here so we can fill the jobs that the Americans aren't here to fill. But that's beside the point. That's a policy thing, as to whether we want to have temporary workers or whether there's a shortage or whether there's the jobs Americans won't do, that crap. But he came out and said Laken Riley would still be alive if not for the Biden-Harris immigration policies.
Well, here's the thing. Okay. America knows how many jobs we have. Okay. The federal government does. The U.S. Labor Department. They can easily say, hey, we need this many immigrants. Okay. We need them in these areas. If you've got a candidate that has these skills, process them through. Okay. If they're eligible, let them in. If not, okay, it's not that difficult.
Yeah, it's not that difficult, but they want it to be difficult. By the way, for people who think you were wrong there, Frank, this is news week. Bill Clinton criticizes border security at a Kamala Harris event. Very first sentence of the paragraph is, it's because the illegal aliens weren't properly vetted. That's the open border policy of the Biden-Harris administration. It's exactly what the mother of Laken Riley has said. Threw her under a bus unintentionally, but it's still throwing them under a bus. And yes, you're right.
I wonder how unintentional that might have been.
I think there's a lot more Democrats that are leaving the Harris fan base. They'll still vote Democrat, but they they aren't necessarily wanting to vote for Harris.
I don't even think they're going to do that, Mike. I think I just actually put out a short video.
Well, I'm talking about the Democrat, the high leading Democrat.
Oh, leadership. Yeah, they'll probably still vote. But I think the rank and file, they're abandoning her. I believe that you're going to see an electoral college count of 312 for Trump. I believe.
What I said 3 weeks ago.
I've been saying this for a long time.
I got
but 312 is I think I was saying 302 up until this week. It's 312 because we're going to see Michigan. Michigan is going to go to Trump, partially because the Dearborn, Michigan Muslims are going to be voting for Jill Stein. And I think that you could, and I may be wrong because Wisconsin might also go Democrat, which means we're underestimating. And you could see Wisconsin.
Here's what RCP has as of today.
Yeah, but
they're showing Trump with 302 and taking Michigan.
Not going to be. No, they're wrong.
Okay. That's what they're seeing.
Yeah, Virginia leans blue, isn't blue. Oregon leans blue, it isn't blue. Michigan right now is toss up, and I would say that's going to go to Trump. Wisconsin,
like I said, RCP is saying that Michigan's going to go to Trump.
I understand, and they as a matter of fact, they updated this because earlier today, this afternoon, the numbers were 226 for Harris and 302 for Trump. So something just changed. I'm not sure which one they're thinking changed.
Well, that's 10 vote. That would be a 10 vote, 10 seats that they haven't ascribed to Trump. If she went down to 326 and he's remained at 302, then something went into the undecided column.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So the only one that I could see possibly change, well, Minnesota or Wisconsin, and actually there's a good chance both of those could swing to Trump.
That's what I'm saying. It's very likely.
Okay, that would put it at 322.
I haven't counted both of them, but yeah, you could see a change. I think it's very much what we're going to see. I don't think they've allocated these numbers properly. Most people, I think, are underestimating it because Kamala, it's obvious the bias and fortification that we've been seeing from ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC. It's obvious. And now with Fox, we get to see the opposite. The betting pools are starting to lean all towards Trump by significant measures.
Oh, they were
all talks
60 percentile.
Yeah. But the more that we see Kamala talking, the more we're seeing Democrats not being involved. And I've never expected Kamala to win. I have always said consistently since the day that they picked her up, it's about getting them donations. They need the money. And they want her to energize just enough of the Democrats to keep the House and or the Senate. Most estimates right now, Republicans take the Senate. But they also say that Democrats will take the Congress. That's why they wanted Kamala. They don't care about throwing her under the bus. They don't care if she wins. They never cared. It's about getting the donations and being able to hold at least one of the houses of Congress. That's what this has always been about. She's succeeded in that goal, and everything else they don't care about.
Well, I think also a lot of Democrat voters are now reading the tea leaves. I think you're going to have a lot of them are just going to be so deflated that they're going to say, I'm not even going. This is a lost cause, whatever. And I think that her down ballot is not going to be nearly as strong because if they're not enthusiastic about voting for her, they're not going to be enthusiastic about voting for the down ballot that supported her and supported the administration that is causing them financial hardship. They're not, look, if they're going to intend to leave the presidency box unchecked, they're not showing up. They're not showing up. I think that she is going to hurt voter turnout worse than what they could have ever imagined. That her down ballot is going to suffer on account of it, because people who were voting for Trump are going to be enthusiastically doing so and are going to click R all the way down the line. They're not going to split tickets.
No, I think what's going to happen, and Democrats will split the ticket. They will split the ticket. But they know, I mean, with everything that's been happening under the Biden-Harris administration, like what Jan is talking about the Venezuelan gangs that have gone in Colorado and taking over apartment complexes, that we're seeing this happening in New York City, down on 42nd Street, that they're running around committing crimes, gangs. People are reacting to that. But I think that down ballot, they're still going to be happy if they can only hold on to the House, which projections right now say they will, because it would have been worse if they kept Biden. They're actually happy. Yeah, they're losing, but they're better off with Kamala than if they had stayed with Biden, because they got nothing. It would have been literally an absolute landslide slaughter. Democrats would not have shown up at all. And with Kamala, they're getting black women. They're getting some more college-educated women. They're getting some of the minority votes. They're getting some of the vote blue no matter who, which is really the anti-Trump vote. They're getting some of that because at least, even though it's a word salad every time Kamala Harris talks, it's at least in English, as opposed to whatever the hell Joe Biden says, which is why we haven't heard from Joe Biden. They've kept him out. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how this moves forward, because I think what they're moving into is they're going to grab the House. They're going to spend all their money and all their time trying to preserve the House, because I think they've accepted they lost the Senate. They're going to lose the presidency. So they're going to focus on House races, protecting people who are up for re-election. And they're going to avoid things like Israel. They don't want to talk about Israel, Lebanon. They don't want to talk about the international funding. They continue to not mention the American hostages held by Hamas at all. That's a no-go zone. That is no comment. Will not talk about it. And they're going to do that all the way until they can get past the election, because that's all they care about right now. There's nothing they can point to and say, this is a positive. Kamala isn't even trying to point to anything as a positive. She doesn't even point to her own ideas, because she has none that are positive. It's all orange man bad, and it's the anti-Trump vote, which is just enough to get them to keep local races, congressional races. That's all they're focused on right now. Only person who thinks that Kamala can win is Kamala. Honestly, that's it. And I'm trying to be fair about this. I know I'm a conservative Republican, but the data, the polls, the articles, the interviews, the questions that are being asked, the ones that aren't being asked, they're giving us this scenario. And I think that what we will see is on election day, just like in 2016, 1 hour, mark my words, 1 hour after it's called for Donald Trump, there will be protests across America. They will attempt to have a couple of autonomous zones. This will all be from the left. They will riot. They will try and burn down various federal buildings. And they'll be screaming and shouting, and they'll be, oh, it's because of the evil Republicans, and we have to fight because evil conservatives, MAGA, how dare they did something. And you're going to see them rioting, burning down buildings. Probably a couple of people die, and they will attempt to create at least 1 or 2 autonomous zones in California. Mark my words. That's going to happen 1 hour after they declare Trump won. I would love and I pray to be wrong.
So Kamala grew up in the black church in Oakland.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean she grew up in a what? I don't understand.
I don't know. She's doing some town hall, and apparently she's claiming now that she grew up going to the black church in Oakland.
She was in Canada.
Yeah. I know.
What's she talking about?
They have literally, just like Biden, disproven a good majority of Kamala's childhood anecdotes.
Speaking of disproving, did you see now she's being accused of plagiarism?
Her and Biden both, not a surprise.
Yes, her 2009 book, there are complete chapters lifted off of Wikipedia.
Chapters?
Chapters, or at least huge sections of chapters. I didn't get the whole story, but I started reading it, then I got distracted. I had some things to do, but apparently there was another book that was written that Wikipedia has complete, they took huge segments of this book and posted it on Wikipedia, and then apparently she went to Wikipedia and took those chapters and put it in her book. It's word for word plagiarism. It's like chapter and verse, over and over and over again. And the media they just exposed it yesterday, and apparently, I guess they're figuring she's just getting hit with so much, flack right now that they're just going to wait till one story dies down, and then they'll ask her about this one. But
no, they're not. They're gonna let it.
Our media side. How much crap can you possibly shovel through in a day before you get tired? You got to hold on to a little crap for tomorrow.
They want these stories to die. They're giving them no oxygen, hoping that people. It's kind of like the Trump assassination attempts. The first two, no oxygen whatsoever. They got rid of those stories in 3 days. No one's talking about it anymore, that's a historic moment. Like when they tried to assassinate Reagan, historic moment. No one's talking about it. They don't want to bring it up. They don't want to show an image because that would not fortify the 2024 election for Democrats. So they've just eliminated that from public knowledge. Try and look it up on Google. The algorithm will not give you that information. They have blown past that. And now, did you hear about what happened with the third assassination? The so-called, I have to say, it was so-called third assassination attempt, which happened when Trump went to Coachella.
Which I don't even know what the hell a Coachella is.
Coachella is an event it's Coachella Valley, California. It's an event every year. It's a leftist, kind of like a Burning Man kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they have this event every year. Trump actually went there because Trump actually shows up where he's got antagonistic crowds or interviews. He actually goes to the other side and talks to them. Kamala once, but he was going there, and a guy, Vem Miller, V-E-M Miller, out of Las Vegas, was going to the event. Now, the news media, this happened on Saturday. The news media didn't start reporting on it until Sunday. What we have found out since that time, and Vem is now suing the California sheriff who claimed on Sunday that it was a potential third assassination attempt because Vem had a handgun, a shotgun, and a extended magazine. The reason why we know these things is because Vem actually told, when he was stopped at the post before he could get in, he told the crew there that he had 2 firearms. He told them about his shotgun, his handgun, and the magazine. But that was left out of the reporting from the sheriff and the mainstream news media that were initially reporting it didn't mention he voluntarily gave this information. They left out the fact that on Saturday, when he was arrested, he wasn't investigated by the FBI. He wasn't being charged by the FBI. And they downplayed the fact that the FBI said, no, it's not an assassination attempt. Now, this sheriff also said that them had fake VIP passes. Well, them, based on his lawsuit, has said he was invited specifically by the local Republican Party because he is a former Republican candidate. He is an advocate for Trump, and yet they're calling him an anti-Trump. And in fact, he's fearing for his life because they have labeled him as an assassin against Trump when he is actually a proponent for an advocate for Trump and a Republican, and he's run in elections as a Republican, but yet they've tried. This is how far they're going. So, and a lot of people don't know this information because it's been downplayed.
He's probably on the do not fly list already.
Oh, I'm sure. Even though the FBI isn't looking at him, and this wasn't an assassination attempt, according to the FBI. It's the way they're trying to play this, and they wanted to play this up. And the reason why we saw so much news about it on Sunday, because I covered it on Sunday, the reason why they were covering it so big on Sunday is because it was a Republican who's a party member, who's run for elected office. And they were like, oh my God, see, he had this gun. He was going to go after Trump. And then the rest of the information came out and go, no, actually, he's an advocate for Trump. And he wasn't there to try and shoot Trump. He was letting them know he had the firearms with him. He was the one volunteering this information so that they knew he was armed. It's the details matter so much, and they are trying to obscure all of them, because when you look at the details, as many black men have, targeting one of the targeted groups, and many of the Dearborn, Michigan voters have looked at Kamala Harris, looked at Democrats, and they've gone, there's absolutely no way I can support that. And they're not. And that's why she's in so much trouble.
All right. Hey guys, listen, I'm going to bow out for the last 15 minutes of this thing, since I was here for 15 minutes alone on my way in.
Sorry.
But
with the way my doctor's appointments are right now, it's going to be rough for me to make it on Wednesday nights.
We may have to figure out an alternative means of broadcast or time. So
yeah, because like I said, right now, I end up having to work until at least 6:30. Because of doctor's appointments I have on every Wednesday.
Yeah, and new situations that I have right now might be precluding me from being at certain places at certain times. So we might have to actually do maybe 1 hour twice a week.
Yeah.
If maybe that would make more sense to do 2 8-hour shows, 2 8 p.m. shows.
Yeah, we may have to look into something.
Yeah.
Because for at least the next 11 weeks. Once I change my appointment time.
Well, we said there's 19 days to the election?
Yeah.
All right, so we might only have 19 days left anyway.
Yeah.
Well, according to, again, listen to Kamala Harris. According to Kamala Harris, she's there to protect freedom of speech, even though John Kerry has directly stated, and she has directly stated, that she has to have a disinformation board to silence free speech, that she has said herself that she wants to go into people's homes to take away their firearms that are locked up and protected. I tell you, this is insane. It is insane. This election season, it is pointing out so many of the problems that are going on in America right now, so much of the double speak that we have been living with, and it's just exposing this underbelly of authoritarianism that has been indoctrinated in our schools. It is crazy at this point. And I think that's why we're seeing such a change. And I know my friend Larry Sharp, some people are coming over from watching him earlier today. Thank you guys for checking in with us. Third parties actually might have we could see a significant change going on in the Democratic Party very, very soon. I think that could be a good thing for America. We can't keep going down this progressive route.
No. Did you see Walls when he went hunting?
And couldn't use his shotgun properly? Yeah.
Yeah.
I as the Second Amendment guy in the group, I didn't even want to comment on that.
Meantime, let's take a look at your VP. All right, because he was
take off the sound. Yeah, take off the sound.
And they're comparing this.
If they have closed caption, you can drop that or.
All right. All I know about the shotgun that he's firing is one of the easiest shotguns to load that you can possibly buy.
Yeah.
And he's, I've had this shotgun. This is the first time the shotgun has ever wound up in this man's hands.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably had it over his fireplace because it looks good, but.
No, he wouldn't have had it over his fireplace because that would violate the safety laws that he so, vehemently supports. This was at the FFL earlier in the day. It was probably purchased by a friend of his, so it wouldn't come back that it was a straw purchase for Tim Walsh's photo op. Yeah, that's what That's what I want to know. Will Governor Walsh possibly provide us with a copy of his 4473 so we can verify the date and time and location in which this shotgun was purchased?
Absolutely will not.
I want to see a receipt for when this gun was purchased. Did his wife buy it for him? Did a friend buy it for him? Was it purchased by the campaign? Straw purchase. Yes. ATF. Those are all illegal. So I would like to see a receipt from said firearm. I would also like to see the receipt from Kamala Harris's Glock that she bought. I would like to see a copy of her California issued concealed carry permit or premise permit, please. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see a copy of her 8 or 12 or 16-hour gun safety class that she was supposed to have. I would like to see a copy of her target where she met the prerequisite number of shots in the X zone to qualify to have that firearm. I would like to know which model of Glock it is, how many magazines you have. Do you have a 10-round magazine or more in that firearm, Mrs. Vice President? Because if you do, you're in violation of California law. Where is the gun now?
These are all wonderful.
Is the gun in Washington, D.C. at the Vice President?
Is it registered in Washington, D.C.?
Because if it is, I want to see your Washington D.C. registration for that firearm because that's an entirely different situation than what.
Wait a minute, where is she? If she's in Washington D.C.,
if it's California, where is it, and who's safeguarding that firearm? If it's at your particular state in California, Mrs. Vice President, these are questions inquiring minds want to know.
But wait a minute, what if it's in D.C.? She can't bring that firearm with her into the White House or into Congress. It's not allowed. So where is that firearm in D.C.?
There are special accommodations made for congressional representatives and senators alike who wish to carry their firearm onto the grounds of the Capitol building.
Yes, there is.
Wait a minute. As I recall, and maybe it changed and I didn't catch this, but because Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the individuals who was carrying a firearm with her, and she was told by the sergeant at arms to give up, to not carry her firearm into Congress because of the regulations under Pelosi, and they never resolved it.
No, she got special dispensation because she was going to push the issue based on what is that little thing about? Congress people can't be charged for a crime while they're in the commission of their duty or something like that. Yeah, they couldn't do nothing to her. If she wanted to carry her gun, she could carry her gun because the laws stipulate that she's not subject
in forms of her duty. She cannot be prosecuted.
Right. So if she wanted to carry the firearm, she's totally constitutionally allowed to do so. So she could do it if she wants to, because it is our U.S. Constitution and she's a representative. Well, who better to represent the Constitution than one of our representatives? But there are now certain people that can carry a firearm, on Capitol grounds that are not part of the police or military that are assigned to it. But as for Kamala Harris, I just want, where's the gun, baby? Come on, baby, tell me where the gun is. Tell me where the gun is. I want to know. I want to know where the gun is and where it's registered to. That's what I want to know.
That's a really good question. And you know what? More gun owners should be asking that, because that's not a conversation most Second Amendment advocates have been asking. No one's really been asking, as far as I've noticed. No one said, gee, you're such a great gun owner. Where are your firearms? Show us when you got them. The FFL, show it.
Glock makes handguns in 5 different calibers: 10 millimeter, 9 millimeter, 45 ACP, 380, and 22. Which caliber firearm do you own, Mrs. Vice President? Which caliber? And then can you tell me which model? Because if you say it's a Glock 45 and it's a 45 ACP, I know you're lying. If you say it's a Glock 22 and you don't tell me it's a 44, well, wait. Does Glock make a 44? Yes, they do. But is it a 44 caliber? No, it's not. It's a 22. Do you know the difference? You know how I know the difference? Because I am a certified Glock armorer. I can take apart any one of them and repair it. That's how I know. I'm educated in it. Are you, Mrs. Vice President? That's what I want to do. Media, why don't you ask a question or two?
Not going to do it, dude. That's why she's been doing nothing but friendlies, so she doesn't get questions like this, because she can't answer these questions. I guarantee you, money down, she can't answer these questions.
What did I hit?
I firearm in her hand. She couldn't tell you.
I just hit like 18 valid questions in under 30 seconds.
Yes.
Off the top of my head, just as a gun owner. And you were right. Gun owners should be asking that question. You know what else gun owners should do? Hey, listen, gun owners, could you do me a favor, please? I want you to, let me see. Pistol Licensing Division, New York City. All right.
They're useless.
If you could, Google a Pistol Licensing Division of the NYPD. A phone number is going to pop up. Can everybody please call that phone number up and ask them why approved permit holders are being delayed the delivery of their approved permits? Can you guys do that for us? Ask questions, because we've been asking questions. We have Mike Riley, a former NYPD lieutenant and current assembly person from Staten Island, is calling and asking questions as to why people who have gone through jumping every hoop, paying the fees, doing the classes, getting their certificates, getting approved for their permits, buying their guns, are being denied their permit because New York City is claiming they don't have the materials to print the permits. Therefore, they're denying these people who have been approved their constitutional right to carry a firearm and defend themselves. So everybody, if you could, call up NYPD Pistol Licensing Division. It's at One Police Plaza in Manhattan. And just ask, can you please tell me why your permit holders haven't received their permits yet? Just ask and see what the clerk says. And then let us know. And if you can get a name, let us know that too.
By the way, just so people know, and I'll let them see it right now, because here it is. In case anyone was wondering, it's on the screen right now. The Pistol License Specialist of New York. And for the permits, where is it? You can actually call. Come on. 646. Yeah, this is it. 646-610-5560. This is from the city of New York. New York City's police department itself. From 8:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Don't even try it at lunchtime. You will get no one. Most calls that I have made went to voicemail, and they did not want to respond. If you're looking for the department specifically, it's the concealed carry unit. So, and that's on the screen right now. And again, this is from the NYPD License Division.
And the phone number is on the screen if you guys want to write it down. But if you could, please, in your spare time, give them a call and just identify yourself as concerned citizen. And that's it. That's all I ask you. Listen, for the rest of the show, I'm going to let the guys take over for me. I got dogs running around downstairs that got to go out. These guys already walked theirs. I love you guys. We'll see you next week. Be safe, shoot straight, and catch you guys on the flip side.
All right.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Okay, getting back to the gun laws for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, according to Senate Assembly Bill 2021-A449A, there is a 10-day waiting period for firearms. Okay. Mm-hmm. Once the NCIS or NICS system has been initiated. Okay. Next background. In Sullivan County, the average processing time for pistol permits is 10 to 12 months. It's been taking longer in Orange County.
It's taking longer in New York City too. I know. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to individuals directly, and I know that it's taking more than that.
Okay, so that's another thing that, folks, these are cases that we would love to take on, but we need your help to do so. Okay, these are violations of our rights being perpetrated by our state governments. In New York State, I've got standing in New York State, and I am planning on challenging these wait times.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do this. We have to start coming together. This is not going, these challenges are not cheap, folks. And this is where we need to come together as a community, as supporters of our constitutional rights. Okay, you've got New York City, literally, even after they go through this big, long waiting period, still denying people the permits that they've been approved for. In New York State, you've got multiple counties where it's taking 10, 12 or months or longer to even get to the point where you can actually buy a firearm. This isn't right, folks. This is not what was intended when this country was founded. And regardless of which side of the gun debate you fall on, the fact that these government agencies are denying that particular right, means that they can violate any other right that we have with impunity. We're trying to change that, but we can't change it alone. We need your help. We need your support. Okay. So, do you want to continue going down the path that we are currently traveling, where government becomes so omnipresent in our lives that we no longer have any rights? because that is exactly what Kamala Harris is pushing for. Okay. We also saw this shortly after 9/11 when the Patriot Act wasn't instituted. It was another violation of her rights. So it doesn't matter which side of government it is, red, blue, Republican, Democrat, they're all stealing away our rights. It's time for us to take a stand as we the people. We've talked about it tonight on this show. We've talked about it in the past on other episodes. But the thing is, until we the people start saying enough is enough, these are our rights, and your job is to protect our rights. That is government's role. It is spelled out plainly in the Declaration of Independence, one of our founding documents, that the role of government is to protect our rights.
Absolutely. Absolutely true.
Okay. So, folks, are you going to continue to allow government to take your rights away, or are you going to demand that they start protecting them? The choice is yours. We can only do so much. Okay. It's not up to us individually. We have to come together. Okay, that's enough of my soapbox and rant. Okay, it just bothers me that we literally allow this to happen. So, folks, it's your choice. Well, Jess, you say that we the people will not be silent?
Yes.
Well, guess what? We've been silent for quite a few generations now. And the thing is government's taking that silence as approval. That's why we have these egregious gun laws that are being passed. That's why we have these egregious assaults on the First Amendment. Okay? Because we allow it. We are being silent.
Grace has an interesting comment real quick. Grace says it bothers her that John Kerry wants to crush the First Amendment. He's not the only one. Remember,
No, he's
John
not.
Kerry is a representative of the Biden-Harris administration. He is a high-ranking elite of the Democratic Party. His ideology has already been filtered through the party and the administration. He's not saying something on his own. He's speaking for the Democratic Party and he's speaking for the Biden-Harris administration. So a lot of people look at it and go, well, he said that. No, he said that in his official capacity, which means he's speaking for the Democratic Party. He's speaking for the Biden-Harris administration, which means this is their goal. And we've heard from Kamala Harris over and over again, several times. She has no plans to make any changes. That's the thing. They're not looking to change anything. They're going to keep going down this path.
They claim that they're not the elite, but that's exactly what the elite does. Is first they silence their subjects. That is the first stage. When you can't speak out about them, when they claim that everything is disinformation or misinformation, that is their attempts to silence you because it doesn't go towards their narrative. Okay. The very party that claims that they are for the people is the one that is the most egregious at taking away our rights.
Yep.
Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you want to get involved, go to the Liberty First Foundation and join. Join with us. Join the fight. Okay? We can turn this country around, but we can't do it alone. We have to come together. You can find us at l1f.us. Okay, there you'll find articles and everything else. You'll also find a way that you can actually help support us in our fight to start getting our rights back and start forcing our government to quit taking our rights and start protecting our rights. That is why our government was created. It wasn't created to take rights from us. It was created to protect our rights, our individual rights. Okay, folks, we'll be here next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can find us on Wednesday nights. We may be making some changes in the near future, but we will keep you posted as to what those changes will be. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you real soon.